Are you struggling to come up with original content week in and week out? Start a podcast. Interview your ideal clients, let them talk about what they care about most, and never run out of content ideas again. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carbary. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show. Welcome back to B2B Growth. My name is James Carbary, and I'm joined by Logan, Lyles, the man, the myth, the legend. Another Behind the Curtains episode. We are super stoked to talk about this episode like we are most episodes. But this one, we Logan came up with this idea as you and I were just kind of jamming pre-interview. We usually have to try to come up with, okay, what are we going to talk about? But this we just kind of stumbled into because we were talking about your inbox and how you're prioritizing, because you're the only salesperson on our team right now. And that's about to change, I think, probably at some point in 2020. But for now, there's a lot going on in your inbox, and and I don't know how the heck you do it, quite frankly. But you were sharing kind of, hey, this is how I actually organize it, and I was like, man, this would actually make a fantastic episode. So Logan, talk to us a little bit about this and kind of your journey to getting where you're at now with kind of inbox management, and then break down what your inbox system looks like.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think any of us, especially if you're in B2B sales, especially if you are, maybe not in the same boat as me, as you are the sales department, you are a sales team of one, but you might be, but maybe you also are involved in account management like I am as well, and some post-sale activity with your customer success team. And in our case, that's our producer team. And so to me, I heard this quote the other day. I'm probably not going to get it word for word, but your inbox is nothing more than a highly organized to-do list organized by someone else. And so if you're working just from top to bottom, trying to get to inbox zero, says applications for everybody, but no more is there a direct connection between where you spend your time and revenue for the organization. Yes. As if you are in a sales role. So that got me thinking. I was also interviewing Rex Biberston for our other podcast, the B2B Sales Show, talking about prioritizing. He likes this idea of bucketing leads so that you prioritize stuff that is closer to the bottom of the funnel or closer to closed won, whether you're going top down or left to right in your deal stages. So that also has some implications here, and I'll share a little bit more on how that affects what are the key labels. I'm going to talk about 4 specific labels that I have, color coding them so I can work through them from highest priority.
I love that quote. I want to reiterate that quote. So your inbox is nothing more than a highly organized to-do list organized by someone else. I think that is such a powerful, hopefully that reshapes the way folks listening to this think about how their relationship with their inbox. They might, obviously what you're going to share here might not be a perfect fit for them. For the marketers listening, maybe they want it to be a little bit different. But I think for salespeople listening, the way you've actually structured your inbox is going to be super helpful. So let's dive into that, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I've got 4 primary labels. I've got some other labels for stuff where I've got automatic filters to push stuff into resources folder and get it out of my inbox, which is another thing you might want to look at doing if you're subscribed to, Sales Hacker and Modern Sales Pros and things like that are valuable, but you don't want them interrupting you with a new message alert and cluttering up your inbox. So what I do with those is filter them to a resources folder, but not talking about those kind of later stage, but my 4 high priority that I want to look at day to day and make sure I take them in sequential order. I've got 1 for urgent and important, the second for late stage deals, the third for active leads or active deals, and then 4 for renewals and account management. And I'm kind of toying with 3 and 4. Maybe those should be flipped, and we can talk about that a little bit. But number 1, let's just look at urgent and important. I've got this labeled with red so that it calls out very distinctively for me in my inbox when I click there. And to me, that's anything that is very urgent. It's got, a short deadline and some sort of repercussion of not hitting that deadline that's pretty impactful to revenue, to a customer situation. So this might be an account management thing, but it might be something that, hey, this needs to be taken care of in the next 2 days or something like that. So that's number 1 for me, is urgent and important.
Got it. And so just to give people a little bit of a picture of this. So these are Gmail labels, what you're using for labels in Gmail. And then you were actually showing me right before we dove into this, you can assign a label when you're actually sending an outbound email. So when it comes back to you, so when the person replies, it automatically labels it. Can you walk through what are the extensions that you're using that are allowing you to do that?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So 2 things. A lot of people are probably familiar with the fact that you can take an email that you've received and tell Gmail, filter messages like these. And then you can say, if it comes in with this subject or from this person or certain combination of criteria, automatically apply this filter. And you can do that for things like I was saying before, like to make it skip your inbox and then get labeled. Or you could say, okay, I know when I get something from this person, it is going to be, account management because they're a current customer. So go ahead and automatically do that. So that's one way to save yourself some time in applying these labels so that you can get the benefits of actually using them. The second one that was really cool to me is actually not an extension. It's just built right into Gmail, and I stumbled upon it. I've been finding some of these just by tinkering around, and actually I've gotten some really good tips on Gmail from some folks I've been interviewing on the 5 Things series. But this one, so when you have a new window open, when you hit compose, new email in Gmail, in the lower right, the 3 buttons there, if you click that, little dialog window opens, gives you 5 or 6 options, but one of those is apply a label. And so you can apply a label to that thread. I'm big on always setting a follow-up. So this has been part of my checklist of, if I'm going to have this boomerang back to me in 3 days, which is another extension I use, if I don't get a reply, I also want to have a label to it so that I know what sort of priority, because Craig Groeschel was talking about this on his podcast I was listening to last night. We always picture the future is going to be less busy than it is today. And it's this illusion that we get, and that's a whole other thing on your calendar. But think about your inbox. Okay, I want this to come back to me in 3 days. That's not going to be the only thing in your inbox. In 3 days, there's going to be new stuff. There's going to be other follow-ups that you've set. So how do you prioritize when those come back to you? So lower right, before you hit send, click those 3 dots. You'll see an option for apply label or labels, and that'll let you pick one for outgoing stuff.
So you've walked through the first one. So the first one is urgent and important. And what types of activities do you deem to be urgent and important?
Yeah, so it might be a fire with a customer. It might be something internal that a project that we're working on that there is a deadline for, something like that. Something that has a short turnaround and has repercussions if you miss that turnaround, miss that deadline.
Got it. So what are the next? What's your second priority then?
Yeah. So number 2 is late stage deals. And I prioritize this over active leads because, again, going back to that conversation I had with Rex on the B2B sales show, is talking about how salespeople, we need to prioritize stuff that is closer to closed won. Now, that doesn't mean you just want to work deals and work deals and work deals that have been stalled in that final stage forever. That's a whole other conversation on getting junk out of your funnel. But as much as you want to work that brand new lead that just came in, that can be exciting, if you neglect stuff that just needs a little bit more work to get across the finish line, don't waste all the time that you've spent on that deal. Now, this will look different depending on your volume and your ACV and your deal sizes and all those sorts of things. But as a general rule of thumb, I agree with Rex that you should be prioritizing stuff that's closer to closed won and then work your way backwards to further away from closed won. So new leads and then when, you're prospecting, which you should always have block time for prospecting. I'm not saying ignore that, but that's the premise on why late stage deals are number 2 on my priority list of my labels.
Got it. So now we go from late stage deals into active leads. Is that your third one?
Yep, absolutely. So active leads or active deals. Again, I could be going back and forth with new leads that have come in via LinkedIn or folks that I'm coordinating with to have on B2B growth, which is often, the first relationship building step for us with a lot of potential customers. But again, okay, I've got a hand raiser. I should prioritize them close to as much as the folks who have already raised their hand, had a call or two with me. We're moving towards closed won. So again, just progressing backwards away from closed won really is what's informing the approach here. So urgent and important is number 1. Late stage deals is number 2. I've got late stage deals labeled as kind of dark green. I'm a salesperson. It's going to be green. And then 3 is a lighter green. So okay, this represents potential revenue, but it's not as close to close won. So that's just kind of my visual thing for it for the first 3.
Love it. So what's the fourth and final one?
So the fourth one is renewals and account management. So as we mentioned at the top of the episode here, in my role, I'm also responsible for renewals and working on account management and current customer relationships with our version of customer success, which is our producer team. And so that has to be a top 4 priority with a business, like ours. We're not a SaaS business, but we operate a lot that way, to where retaining revenue is just as important as net new revenue. And oftentimes it can be, we've all heard the stats on how easier it is to sell to a current customer. And so this is where I actually am a little bit torn between maybe flipping this one up above active net new leads because we've been adding new services, SEO, content planning, different video aspects, on-site media coverage, those sorts of things. And to that point of finding opportunities to upsell, cross-sell, gain referrals, those sorts of things, make sure that customers are having a good experience so that renewal, which is important revenue as well, gets attended to. So we'll see. We might have to check back 30, 60 days, see if I flip that one up above active net new leads. But that one currently is number 4, which is renewals and account management.
I love it. Logan, this is super helpful. I think really, really actionable. In closing, what would be your kind of closing, what do you want to leave our audience with today after dropping, this really actionable kind of meaty piece of content on them?
Yeah, I would say if you kind of live and die in your Gmail inbox, then look at a few of these things. Look at how you could manage the labels. To me, just the visual color coding sort of it for the top things. I don't go to the length to label every single email into something, but if it falls into one of those 4 buckets, it has caused me to think through that prioritization. Now, if you don't work in Gmail all the time, look for how can I apply this methodology in Outlook, or if you live inside your sales engagement platform like Outreach or SalesLoft or something like that, then think about that. But I think the premise there, again, thinking about where am I spending my time from the encouragement I've gotten from Craig Groeschel recently, and then how can I spend more time closer to closed won and prioritize that time, which again, I got to give a hat tip over to Rex Biberston on that one. If you take those and apply them, I think that this will be applicable even if you don't live and die in Gmail every single day like me.
Love it. I love it. Logan, this just makes me over the moon grateful that you're on my team and not somebody else's, because there's not a snowball's chance in hell that I would have ever come up with this system on my own. And so thanks for being awesome and for sharing your brain with all the lovely folks that are listening to this episode right now. If you are listening and you are not already connected with Logan and I on LinkedIn, that is a crying shame. You should connect with both of us. Logan Lyles, James Carbary, Carbary, since I have a weird last name. Also, I wrote a book recently, and you should check that out. Content-based networking, Audible, Amazon, all those good spaces. We love you. We really, we love doing these episodes. We love you. Reach out to us. We always want to hear from you guys. So thanks a lot. Hey there, this is James Carbary, founder of Sweetfish Media and one of the co-hosts of this show. For the last year and a half, I've been working on my very first book.
In the book, I share the 3-part framework we've used as the foundation for our growth here at Sweetfish. Now, there are lots of companies that have raised a bunch of money and have grown insanely fast, and we've featured a lot of them here on the show. We've decided to bootstrap our business, which usually equates to pretty slow growth. But using the strategy outlined in the book, we're on pace to be one of Inc.'s fastest growing companies in 2020. The book is called Content-Based Networking: How to Instantly Connect with Anyone You Want to Know. If you're a fan of audiobooks like me, you can find the book on Audible, or if you like physical books, you can also find it on Amazon. Just search Content-Based Networking or James Carbary, Carbary, in Audible or Amazon, and it should pop right up.